Welcome to the 10th episode of the Building Interactive Website series, where we'll go over how to define variables in JavaScript, as well as go over some basic data types in the language. So firstly, let's go over variables. If you don't know what a variable is, it's basically a container of information that's accessible through a name, such as num1, str1, or mybool, as you can see here in this notebook. And those containers can contain data of a specific data type. As you can see here, we have numerical values, numbers, a string with this is JS inside of it, and a Boolean value, which is a true or false value, which is set to true in this case. For this video, we're going to go over two different ways of creating a variable. So, for scripting, I'm going to be making use of an internal script, making use of the script tag, where I can type my JavaScript code in, just because it's easier to do so to showcase the JavaScript concepts. So the first way that we're going to go over in this video of creating a variable is by typing in const. And then the way you define a variable with const is by first typing in the word const here, adding a space, and then creating a name for your variable. So I'm planning on creating a variable for a special number. So I could call it my special number with S and N capitalized to denote separation of words. This is how variable names are normally structured in JavaScript, but for constant variables, another common convention is to use all capital letters with underscores to separate the words. So, for example, my underscore special underscore number, all in uppercase. I'm personally going to stick with camel case, as this is commonly referred to as, with the first word being all lowercase and then the next words being capitalized with only the first letter capital. And now, in order to assign a value to this constant variable, you can optionally add in another space just to make the code easier to read, and then type in an equal sign, and then you can type in the value that you want to store in this variable. So I'm going to try the one that I showed in that notebook page earlier, so that decimal number specifically. So that was 1.618033. And now I can complete this statement with a semicolon. And now if you run the code, you can see that nothing happens because we've simply defined the variable. We haven't used it in any way yet. So we can log it to the console by using console.log and then a pair of parentheses, which if you're using the sandbox, if you type in the left parentheses, it'll automatically generate the right parentheses for you. And then we can add a semicolon at the end again to denote the completion of this statement. And then in the parentheses, we can simply write the variable name inside. In this case, this my special number actually shows up in the auto completion, so we can simply click this, or we can type it out if we wanted to. And now if we open the browser console by right-clicking and selecting Inspect, and then going up to Console, you can see this 1.618033 value is printed out to the console. However, note that because we're using const, this my special number variable is essentially a constant value. It cannot change. So we can try to reassign it by saying my special number, and then we can use the equal sign to set it to something else. Try to set it to something else. So, for example, if we want to reassign it to 1, then you can see an error pops up, and it says invalid assignment to const my special number. So because this const makes it a constant variable, that means we are not able to change it. However, there's another way to define variables. There's another keyword called let. Variables declared with let are slightly more flexible than those declared with const because they actually can be reassigned. And you can see, firstly, it defines the special number as 1.618033, and then it changes its value to 1, and then it logs it to the console. And because you can reassign let variables at any time, we can break this statement up into two different statements. So we can get rid of this equal sign for now, and then just say let my special number. All this does is just create space for the special number in memory, prepare for a value to be assigned to it, and then we can set my special number to be equal to this value. And then we can move this console.log statement up to show that this code still works and does assign this decimal value to my special number. And you can see this value still prints. Note that if we try to print the value of a variable to the console without declaring it with let or const beforehand, then you can see that we encounter an error saying my special number is not defined, meaning we have to declare it by making use of let or const. However, if we just declare it using let and don't assign any value to it, then you can see it prints out undefined, telling us that we need to assign a value to it to use it effectively. So now you can see that I renamed this variable to my special value instead of number, because we're going to be going over data types next. Now, the first data type that we went over in this video is the number data type. This is when the number is, or when the value is a decimal or a whole number. So as you can see, if we run the code with the variable being a number, then the numerical value prints out in green. We can also make this no longer a decimal, and this number still prints out. And so we can print out the type of a value or obtain the data type of value by typing type of and then a space before this variable name. So as you can see, if we run the code now, you can see the type of this variable is a number. This is true even when this number is not a decimal. So both integers and floating point values or decimal values are considered to be the same number data type in JavaScript. Additionally, another thing that we can assign to a variable is a piece of text in quotes. So since we're using a script tag, we can use either double or single quotes here. And so, for example, if we were to type hello world, then if we print the type of this variable, you can see it appears as a string, which is what this type with text in quotes is commonly referred to as. And if we remove the type of, you can see this hello world prints out, which is exactly what we've written in this pair of quotes here. The final data type that we'll go over in this video is known as a Boolean. A Boolean can take one of two different values. The first one is true, and the second one is false. And if we were to print these out to the console, you can see false and true get printed out in a different color so that we know they're a special data type other than strings of text. And if we were to do type of this value, you can see it appears as a Boolean. This concludes the 10th episode of the Building Interactive website series. I hope you found it useful, and thank you very much for watching.